Daith da, Eubie Nacken. Welcome to podcast number 195. Well, as I mentioned last week in the podcast, this week on Friday afternoon, we was in church again, but this time, 'twasn't for a funeral, 'twas for a wedding. Up St. Bray, our vicar Jules here in Wadebridge married Sean, a vicar herself, a little bit more up North Cornwall way. So we had vicars everywhere, bishops, the lot. And 'twas a handsome day. Weather was perfect. Sun was shining. The sky was blue. I did put a photo on our RJ Bray Facebook page. 'Twas brilliant. And the church was absolutely packed. 'Twas even. And we did hear a bit of a noise, actually. Partway through the service, it carried on. And in the bell tower at St. Briot, they got a couple nests of, well, I want to say rooks or crows. I don't know the difference, really. I must Google that. But anyway, it was either rooks or crows. And they got little young ones up there. And there's a crack in the wall at the back of the church, big enough for this little baby one to poke his head through and squawk away. So I did manage, if you go on our RJ Bray Facebook page, you'll see that I did video it. It was quite cute to see, really. But we had a really good day, really did, or a good afternoon. So we wish them both the best for the future in their married life. And then I'll talk about the weekend in a minute. I think we'll just bounce over to this week now. And we've had a busy time again, including Michael's funeral from up St. Breward was a funeral we had on Monday. Lovely to see a fantastic crowd there. And in the afternoon, we had Lillian's funeral. Now, Lillian, she was a darling. She was 97 from Padstow. And some of you, if you listen to the podcast right from the start or you've caught up in the meantime, if you go back, I think it was episode 45, back in July, I think it was 2023, when Lillian was on the podcast. And if you haven't heard it before, you want to go back and listen to it because she was a darling. She really was very interesting to talk to. And on the day, I think John and Tilly, her children, was just blown away with how many people were there. Fantastic crowd. We had the British Legion there as well. Ross, the standard bearer. We had Guard of Honour. Oh, dear old Lillian, she would have loved it. She really would. And yeah, it was brilliant. Hang of a crowd, a wonderful send-off for her. But say, if you want to listen back over again to Lillian's story, like I say, it is episode 45 of the podcasts. Tuesday was a very busy day for us, I must admit. Phyllis from Tintagel, we had her service at Glyn Valley. Again, a wonderful crowd there. And then Maggie down at Padstow, full Requiem Mass, Roman Catholic. Again, a lovely service and, lovely to see her friends and family there, to see her off. Again, the weather was lovely, which was good. And then after that, also Karen's funeral from Up Advent. So we were kind of here, there and everywhere sort of thing. It was one of those days where you leave in the morning and you don't get back to the office till tea time sort of thing. Another funeral this week, I did put a video on actually of the inside of the church, St. Q Church. Well, it is actually, to give it its proper name, it is the Parish Church of St. James the Great, St. Q. And I did put a video on our RJ Bray Facebook page, and we was up there for Michael's funeral. Now, if I said Michael, a lot of you would think, well, I haven't got a clue who that is. But if I said Mickey Jimmy, loads of you would know exactly who I was talking about. I mean, he's somebody that I've known for such a long time. I can remember his father, actually, and always known him as Mickey Jimmy. And he was Michael James. But I never knew where he got, how people started calling him Mickey Jimmy. And it actually went right back to his primary school, I think it was. And there was already another Michael James there in the school. So the teacher decided he would call him Mickey Jimmy. And it have lasted all his life. And again, we had to have extra chairs out the church. It's a big church, St. Q. Church was full. And I know that Mickey would have loved it. And There was a lovely photo on the service sheet because he was actually a schoolboy champion at Cornish wrestling. And that's something I must go into a bit in the future when I've got a spare 5 minutes to talk about Cornish wrestling. But a beauty photo there of him. But it was a really lovely service, I must admit. And then another service, we had Brenda's funeral from Camelford. Now, that service was down at Penmount, and dear of her, she was 101. What an age she'd lived, 101 years. And we had a nice, small, intimate service there. The grounds was looking lovely, I must admit. This is a beauty time of the year down here in Cornwall with all the spring flowers coming out, and summer is here now. And it was a lovely send-off for her. Obviously, numbers are restricted because when you get to 101, there aren't many of your classmates left. But she did have a good farewell. And today and tomorrow is rare days for us, really. We got no funerals. And partly, I think this is due to the Royal Cornwall Show, which is the big show here, the agricultural show here in Wadebridge. And I did give the history of it. I don't know if it's last year or the year before. If we have families in and we're talking about dates, if they mention this Thursday or Friday, we always say, yep, we're happy to do it. No problem at all. Couple of things you've got to bear in mind. One is the traffic, because there's thousands that come to this show, and especially in the morning and then mid to late afternoon, the traffic is chaos. And of course, then the second thing is there's so many local people involved with the show that if people had a funeral on this day, a lot of people couldn't come because they are committed to working up at the show. So that does affect it. We have had funerals on show days, but this year we am as such. So I had a good day in the office today. I am open to whip up there tomorrow if I can, spend a few hours there. And of course, we will be thinking of Rex, dear of him. Rex Curtis only passed away a few weeks ago. A big part of the show gone. But I'll give you an update on that next week on how my visit went to the show. So now I just wanted to talk briefly about my weekend. As some of you would know, when we was about 7 years old in the boys' school, Steve moved down from London, one of our classmates, and he was an Arsenal supporter. So there's a whole gang of us that was mates with him. We become Arsenal fans too. I didn't have a clue at the time that Arsenal was in London, but I used to follow him. I used to get Father's Western Morning News on a Wednesday morning or a Thursday morning to see if the Arsenal had played the night before and what the score was. And I used to keep a diary back then. And you look back at my diary, there's nothing in it apart from on a Wednesday morning, I put in the Arsenal won 1-0 last night or something like that. So anyway, we've suffered for years, and it's been 22 years since Arsenal last won the championship, the Premier League, and we did it this year. So, of course, there was a big parade up in London. It was the perfect thing, really, to get a lot of people there because, they won it a week before, and it was on a Sunday because that's the only day they could have it, because on the Saturday they was playing in the Champions League final. And I thought what we would do, we would go up Sunday morning and then we'd watch it and come back home. But as I did my research, as the days went on, I realised if we wanted to get a viddy spot that we could see someone, we'd have to get there really early. So I asked all the kids, the ones that are Arsenal fans, I think 4 of them are out of the 6. I asked them if anybody wanted to come. Well, James couldn't come. Daisy said, yep, she was up for it. That was good. Elliot, he was working, he couldn't come. And Mabon was on holiday with her mates over in Mallorca. So out of the 6, the 4 of them are Arsenal fans. Daisy was the only one that could go. So we decided we went up on the Saturday morning. I found an hotel on the internet. We booked up because they said if you kind of get a place perhaps 30 minutes away from North London to be less congested and everything. So we found a hotel and then we walked to the pub, which was about a mile away. And bear in mind, we still hang away from North London. and it was packed with Arsenal fans as we watched the Champions League final. And it was a fantastic atmosphere. Gutting that they drew, extra time they drew, and of course then it went to penalties, which is always a bit of a lottery anyway. But really, well, I don't know, looking back, we should have perhaps tried to be a bit more attacking, I don't know. But anyway, we lost that, and it was a bit of a downer. And then you're thinking, well, is that going to affect the parade the next day? So we got up early the next day, had our breakfast, say it was about a half-hour tube journey to North London, got off at the Arsenal station, and then we walked around and we found a barrier. We was there right at the front. There was gaps there still then. I reckon it was about 9 o'clock, I suppose. And there was gaps there. At the time, we didn't know if we was on the beginning of the route or the end of the route. Now, it started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they reckon it would take about 2 hours. So, of course, we were there from 9 o'clock, and it's building up, well, quite quickly, actually. As the time's going on, they're just coming from everywhere, red and white. All you can see is red and white. And the atmosphere, you've got the chanting, and they got these blow-up footballs or proper footballs that are being aved around the crowd across the road and everything. Absolutely brilliant. So time was going on, and we did realise come the end that we were towards the end of the parade. And it got to about 3:30. You could see the helicopters getting a bit closer. I think there was 2 helicopters. I think one was police and one was the TV. That's what I think it was. Got to about 3:30 and somebody collapsed. They was dragged over the barrier, put down not too far away from us. And the next thing, we couldn't believe it, a blimmin' ambulance comes and parks right in front of us. And I'm thinking, I can't believe this. We've waited since 9 o'clock this morning, and all we're going to see is the St. John ambulance. And I was in St. John's years ago, but I thought that's all we're going to see. Well, then the next thing, there's other people that have collapsed in different areas, and then bringing them all down to our corner. And I'm thinking, do they realise there's an undertaker here? I don't know. But I thought, oh, no, we're going to miss this. And a few people behind was getting a bit agitated. But anyway, they did move the ambulance, and then the helicopters are getting closer. The crowd noise is getting more and more, and then the parade comes along. The frustrating thing, I think, to a point, we was a bit lucky, but I know others wouldn't, because as the buses come, a lot of people had these red flares they'd light, and the place was just full of red smoke, which was quite atmospheric. But I know a few people that actually went to watch the bus, and the smoke was that thick, they couldn't see nothing. All they could see was red smoke. Now, we was lucky because the nearest flare to us was about 50 yards up the road. The smoke was coming down our way, but it had thinned out enough we could see the buses, so it was good. I suppose, really, it was a kind of a slow motion version of the Tour de France. I mean, we went there into Paris once. We cycled to Paris, and we got there the night before to watch the Tour de France the next day. And it's there, you're queuing for ages, and then they've just gone. Within 10 seconds, they've all shot by. Well, this was obviously a bit slower version of that, but you had all this waiting, and then the buses go by. But it was absolutely brilliant. It really was. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Fantastic atmosphere. Well, then some people around us, they unhooked the barrier. So we started following the parade then. And then we got to a dead end because the police then, they kind of blocked off the road for the walkers. So I said to Days, I'll tell you what, let's go back to the station. We'll head for home. So we turned around, and there's quite a few of us walking against the tide. But I reckon it took us an hour to walk less than a mile. It was that busy. They reckoned, I've seen different numbers, but I've seen quite a few reports to say that there was about 1.5 million Arsenal fans there on the streets. And you could believe it. It was everywhere. Well, eventually we get back to our tube station, and there's a queue there. So we think, yeah, I got a queue to get on. And Mehdi there, he's on the gate, and he said, this station is closed. I thought, well, what are we going to do now? So we said, well, when will it open? He said, it should open in about 3 hours' time. I thought, oh, hang. So he said, well, what do we do? He said, well, if you go down to Pancras, is it King's Cross as well? You walk down there, that's the nearest station. 'Tis about a 25-minute walk. Well, it was 45 minutes it took us. So we walked down there. The roads was just chock-a-block. There was 3 ambulances we passed on the way, blue flashing lights, sirens going, and they just couldn't move. It was just gridlocked. So anyway, we get down there to Pancras, King's Cross, and it's shut. It's locked. They got police there. So we said, oh, what's on here then? He said, well, the whole of the tube network has been evacuated. It's all been shut down, crowd controlled. There's too many people. We don't know when it will open. It will open at some stage. So we couldn't get a taxi because none of the cars were moving. So I said to Dace, get on your phone. Let's see how long it will take to walk back to our car. 3 hours. So I said to Dace, do you fancy walking? She said, no, I don't. So we hung around for about an hour. We had a coffee. And then thankfully, they opened it up again. They had a kind of a one-way system. So you had like one entrance that you could go in and out was just for going in. The other one that normally you could go in and out was people coming off the train. So we got down on the train, back to the car, and then back home. And of course, we got the electric car. He was fully charged going up. So we made it all up pretty much in one charge. But I had to charge it, stop for 15 minutes twice going back to charge the blooming thing. But we got home. I dropped Dave's off 2 o'clock. And I think I got into bed at 2:20 Monday morning. And then the alarm goes off at 6 to get up for the run. But there we are. But it was proper. It really was. So there we are. So that was me weekend anyway. Right, well, that's enough from me. Now to part 3 from Barney. And this interview has been going down really well. We've had brilliant comments about Barney. So I will go over to him now, and then I will do me Cornish bits directly. So, here it is.
And I mean, believe it or not, I mean, I was 21, Linda was 18, and we got married. I mean, look at it now. My God, I got my granddaughter Lily. She's 17 and a baby. I think, God, back you. But then everybody done. My brothers and all, everybody got married. They just got married at that sort of age, like, you know. Well, still over farm work. I mean, both our first house up Seaview, number 5 Seaview Terrace, and it was up for auction. But we missed the viewing day because we didn't know it was up for sale. So I went into the council, seen a bit of mortgage. I said, yeah, that's right. Well, the council man said, it's in the auction at the White Hart Hotel in St. Austell. We go in and bid for it. He said, would you like me to come and bid for you? I said, yeah, I don't know what to do. He said, well, it's a £5 charge. I thought, Christ, that's after me week's wages. But anyway, I said, yeah, you better do that. So we went over up there and we bought it. We won it. So I think it was about 3,000, maybe £500 for the house. I hadn't seen inside of it because we missed the viewing day. All we could do was look in the kitchen window. That's all we knew. Yeah. So anyway, we could have went by. You can come and pick up the key from the council offices, right? And back then, they wouldn't take Linda's wage into consideration because they used to say that she'll get pregnant and can't work because she was working in the post office at the time and I was working over farm. So I was earning £12 a week then, mine. So anyway, went in, but you wouldn't take time off work. I said to John, I said, I got to nip in and pick up the key. All right, you go. So I rolled in and also picked up the key, went back, unlocked the front door, ran in, looked around all the rooms, and I thought, wow, there's floorboards here and there's doors here. That's all I knew. Yeah. Went back, right back working again, then in the evening. This was like, I want to say it was like September time. We got married in February. So we had all winter then fixing it up and stuff. Well, I mean, my first car was a Triumph Spitfire. Oh. Lovely little car. I loved that car. Of course, we had to do all this work up Seaview and I couldn't carry nothing in that one, could I? So I reluctantly had to sell and get a little Austin A35 van, sorry. Got that. So that's what we done to carry rubbish and stuff in. So anyway, we fixed it all up and got married. I've got to get this right, in February, but I won't say the date because I'll get it wrong. But just in February, that would have been 1974, I think, 3 or 4. I always get it muddled up. Anyway, that was that. So I had a mortgage to pay now, and there's a bit more serious, like, isn't it? You know, you aren't just free and easy now, are you? You know? So Bill Marden, the chap down the road, he was working on a big sewer works, like Morgan Village, Trevarian, Petrulia Steps, all went on the main sewer back to St. Cullen. Right. There was a big contract going on. And Bill said to me, I knew Bill, and he said, look, I'll give you a job, he said, building up edges. Right. We want somebody that can build edges. So we were out on the farm and that, so I can build edges, right? So it was Denver Alton, who lived across the road from me, down council. We grew up together. He was on the gang. Bill Marden and Roy Wolf, he lived on the council as well. So I went on, there was 4 of us in the gang. We went out there and we was laying pipes, the sewer pipes, when John Rowlands was on the digger. Right. That's when I met John. Anyhow, we do that, and he said, well, what they used to do is they just come to an edge and scat the edge down, go through the digger and lay the pipes, and then somebody would build the edge up. Instead of digging up and bore under the edge, they didn't do that. They just scat the edge down, see? So that was I used to lay pipes as well, but I was doing these. So Bill said, we'll keep that edge. And he said, for Sundays, it's double time. So anyhow, I've jumped the gun a bit, because I went over to John now and I said, look, I got a job out on this sewer job. I said, lot more money. I didn't, wow, the first week's pay, I paid more in tax than I earned over farm for the week. Really? I said, my God, we're millionaires. All this money we had. And we was working long hours, but just good pay, real good pay, compared to what I'd been used to, So anyway, we went on with that. And John kept saying to me, you come work for me on the digger. He said, I could do with you. I said, I'm earning good money on here. And anyway, then that job finished. We finished all that job. Then we moved to Hale with the same company doing the same thing. And there's a long old track down there. We never know Camborne bypass or nothing. Then you had to go all in around Camborne and just out of the journey. Done that for I don't know how long. And I thought, oh, hell, I'm going to go back and work for John. So I went on with John Rowlands then for, 2 years on the digger and swing shovel. Well, one of the jobs we done was Glappa Valley. Oh, yeah. The railway. Yeah. But when the chap that bought that, lovely old chap, he used to own the little railway, miniature railway in Newquay, the zoo there. Right. And then he bought the line out Newton East, Benny Holt right up through to the other end, like. And it was just a bog, nothing but a bog. You couldn't walk in there. So that was going to be the car park. So we had a JCB swing shovel and dug out all this muck naked in the lorries, Rowlands' lorries. They went up through Newton East, back down to the tin waste, on the other side of Newton East. There was a big mines and that. Well, that's where there was terrible flooded there once. Yeah. One of all the men was lost. So he was loading, another one over there, loading the lorries with the tin waste, bringing it back and tipping in there. And we made the car park as we went. I was leaving it all the rubbish and tracking in this tin waste, and that's how we made the car park. Yeah. That was one of the jobs I'd done there. And then I went round doing foundations. I'd done 18 months. I went non-stop digging foundations. Get on me wick a bit, really, but got quite good at it coming up, because there was Bernard Kemp, the company from down west somewhere. They had a site down by the Gano building site. There was another one up Trarlagon, another one beyond the zoo, and the one in St. Cullen, just down past the school there on the right. There's all the houses in there. Yeah. Well, I used to go from one site to the other, digging, and I'd dig 2 or 3 houses, foundations, and then I'd go off to the next one and dig for that. And I was doing that just going around all the time. Done all that. Well, then work dried up. The building went all quiet, and they didn't want no diggers, and we was all back there now in the yard, and nothing. All the diggers was parked up, no work. So several of us got made redundant. Well, we was up Seaview living. Linda was still working down post office. And then Don Bunt, he is a pig farmer by a friend. He got the year that I was there to work. So he come up like this. I could give you a job. He said, come and work for me on the pig farm. I said, all right. So I go down there. And that was a very interesting job. I worked on farms, obviously. And I had pigs on farms, but not this was just an intensive pig farming. The way he'd done it was brilliant. He had sows and farrows and farrow them and then rear them right through to fat and send them away, do the whole process. And I'd done that for, well, he was expanding while I was there. Everything was forever building new pig houses and that, because it was going bigger and bigger. Well, Eric Roberts, just in the lane from where he lived, they had diggers and that. Well, we used to hire the digger from Eric, and I used to do the digging. We'd dig out all the pig houses and slurry pits and crates. And yeah, of course, Eric got, he knew me then, and he said, "Oh, come work for me." So I left and went and worked for Eric, and me and Al was working together. And that's when me and Al started working together, because he was there as well, tarmacking and digging and whatever, like. Oh, but I'd already applied for Western X before I went with Eric. And I said to Eric, I said, "Look, I have applied for Western X." I said, "That's where I'm heading. And if I get a job, that's where I want to go." Because back then, if you got on ECLP, Western X, you had a job for life, pretty much, back then. So anyway, I went on with Eric for a fair little while. And then I used to work for an on the days off. When I went Western X, I used to have days off of going. Eric was a booty. You know Eric.
Yeah.
He'd come and pick me up. I'd been like morning shift. "Oh, could you give us a hand for a couple of hours?" I said, "Yeah, right." He picked me up. He showed me down Cornwall or Sands, up top of Ports there, big campsite.
Yes, I know.
We're down doing through potholes down there, he said. Oh, I said, "Oh, all right, yeah." So off I jumped in the car, went down there, and there was all the men there going down Morty there and working. Right? He dropped me off. I got out the car and he drove off, see? Oh, that's right. So anyway, he had a little old lorry there with a ton of tarmac. But when you're doing potholes, it lasts forever. The tarmac, you don't get rid of it, see? Because when you're using it a little bit, cut out the square and put it in, and we was going down there. And then, so while we go back Skays Hill now, the campsite back there, we got potholes there, we still had tarmac left. I didn't get home until 10 o'clock at night. I never had no tea or nothing. I said, "Oh, he cooked me a booty, didn't I?" Typical Eric, that was. Yeah, it was all good fun, though, dear. Yeah, so then, I went Western X, done that, drove the dozers, loaders, swing shovels, done all that. And then I went there, and turned long after Al come on as well. Right. Well, we was up, we're working away, and you're going back now, late 70s it was, 78, 79, something like that. And it was getting bigger and bigger up Playworks. The amount of plant was coming in, big dumpers and outside hire machines, because they just couldn't get enough clay. They could just hold before it was out the ground. Like, they had the monopoly really of it all. And but we was on the dumper gang. Like, well, depending on how far they was travelling, you might have 5 dumpers running, you might have 10. If they might have a long run, you've got to have more to keep. You want to keep that loader working, Well, back then they used to have diesel tanks dropped around the sites, and you had to fill yourself up. Well, that's right. But after dinner, you think, well, I better pull in down and get diesel. Well, that was right, one at a time. But towards the end of the day, you think, well, there's 3 or 4 now got that diesel. They'd be queued up behind you, waiting to get in to fill up with diesel. Yeah. The loader was down with a bucket up in there, no numbers. Yeah. It wasn't a very efficient way of working, really. Yeah. So then they cottoned on to that, and they thought, right, we're going to convert some old tankers, some old folding dumpers into fuel tankers. And then they decided then we'll fill up these machines when they're stopped after they leave work. And in the crib breaks, whenever they stop, you wouldn't allow to stop a machine. You had to do it when he was stopped. Well, that eliminated that right away, and that upped production quite a lot right away. They made a real big saving there. Well, it made sense, didn't it, really? So that's how we got on the tank. And Tone went on first, and then I went on, and then Al come on. So we 3 was on that tanker. I think I'd done 29 years on the fuel tankers. Okay. Yeah. Well, we started off with the little fountains. Well, they would only carry, I'm not sure what the litres was. They would say 9 or 10,000 litres. When we finished up, the last tanker we had he was 20,000 litres. But we was filling up at one point 18 machines a shift. We was going all over the clayworks. We was flat out all the time going. And you had to do it when they was on the break or when they left work. And we would be starting 3 o'clock in the morning to get all these machines filled up before they started at 7 o'clock, And then the last new tanker we had, lovely machine, best one we ever had, cat tanker, lovely. You had the cat motor wings, you go up back on the sides of the tank, right? And at the end, they had this handrail coming up at the right angle like that, see? And as soon as I saw it, I said, now that there is going to catch the wing mirrors on the dumpers if we aren't careful. Because the 773s was quite big-eyed, but they had a mirror looking down so the driver could sit in the driver's seat and see the grain of the offside wheel, make sure nobody wasn't there, like, for safety. That was all right. So we put the tanker around this dumper, and he's all right. He got plenty of room with clearance. I said, well, yeah, but I said, if that dumper's lying over a bit, and I'm on a bit of a bank sometimes, we could end up hitting it. No, you don't need to do that. I said, well, cutting off and putting it across like that. Don't need to do that, right? No problem. That was done that. Went on for several years, actually, like that. Well, I don't know if it's several years, but a fair while. Well, then we had these Bell 50-tonners, bendy buses, what we call them, 6-wheel articulated dumpers. And they all come in with their wing mirrors. They got great big wing mirrors on sticking out, but they didn't have any mirrors looking down so the driver could see the wheel, the offside wheel. So you've got to fit wing mirrors on all the dumpers, they said. Then you can see the driver. So Martin Corn was the fitter. He come along now and fitted all these mirrors on all these dumpers. I didn't know nothing about it. I come in morning shift, in the morning, done up me round, come down to, they was down outside the oil farm park that I come roaring down round, pulled up, filled up the dumper, went right up through. There was a line, there must have been a dozen of these Bell 50s, went right up through, filled them all up, carried on me round. This was before 7 o'clock, before they started work. And then I got home here, and Andy Varco rang me up. He's in the office. He said, oh, you had a bit of a mishap today. I said, did I? Yeah, he said, you smashed all the mirrors off these dumpers up here. I said, I didn't know I'd done that. How would I know that? I said, I didn't even... Yeah, he said, first of all, when the boys come into work, they thought they'd been vandalised because every one of them was smashed. They thought somebody had been here vandalised these mirrors, see? So anyway, he said, you had it. Well, I didn't know that. So he said, well, you come into work tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. He said, but you can't drive the tanker. Oh, I said, you're suspended.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, that's what they done back then, you know. He said, I got Simon coming in to drive the tanker. He said, you'll have to wait till 7 o'clock and come up and see Billy Appleton. He's the safety officer. So I had to go up and see Billy, and he went in and he put on a safety video, showing an accident and, you know, a dozer going in with the bank or something like that. So I had to watch all that rubbish. And I said to Andy Varco, I said, if you'd have listened to me in the first place, that wouldn't have happened, would it? So he said, the tanker's back in the yard now in the workshops having that rail cut off. So I thought, well, you wouldn't have, if you'd done what I asked in the beginning, it wouldn't have happened, would it, you know. But anyway, that was that. So then, well, I just say, we've done 30-odd year up there. And then in 2007, big announcement, 600 men got to go. So, God, this is terrible. We were looking for volunteers. So me and Al and Tony went right in Tony Knight's office. I said, we'll volunteer. We thought they won't let we go because we've been driving the tanker, and that's the main, you've got to have E. Yeah, no problem. I think they all had to give orders. Anybody that wants to go, let them. You know, because they save the people that don't want to go, don't it? Which is fair enough. So, and he said, if you got a job to go to and you get a letter from that employer saying they're going to take you on, we'll release you now. Other than that, you've got to stay on until November. This was like January, February, they announced this. So Alan said, I got a job with Eric right away. So Eric wrote a letter and I went right away, see? And it was funny because I was forever working for Al. We used to swap shifts. He would do night shift, I'd do a night shift free. And he ended up owing me, I don't know, a few days. He owed me a few days. And Alan's finishing Monday. I said, well, he still owed me 2 or 3 days. Oh, well, we'll sort that out. So they did sort all that out. Anyway, Alan went in like January, whatever. And me and Tom carried on then till the November 2007 we finished because everything was being scaled down. So obviously they didn't need 4 free men on the tanker then anyway. You know, that was all gone.
Well, thank you, Barn. That was proper. And we'll have our final part with Barney next week. Now, for my Cornish word of the week, I'm going to make the most of this because Arsenal, they haven't won nothing much at all over the last few years. So this week, I'm doing the Cornish word for champion because we are the champions. And that is campier, which is Kampyer. campier. Now, for my Cornish dialect of the week, this is another one from Steve Burrows that I'd never heard before. And this is, in the context he used it, he said if somebody got long hair and they look at their hairs looking scruffy and whatever, he'd say their hair is hanging down like a pound of candles. Hanging down like a pound of candles. Now, where that comes from, he said that back in Redruth, Camborne, back in the day, there was shops near the mines that would sell candles by the pound. And they might be tied on a bit of string or something. Quite often they'd be near the mines or something. They'd sell these candles, like I say, by the pound. So that's me dialect for this week. Hanging down like a pound of candles. So there we go. Right, well, I'm looking out the weather. Tis getting a bit darker. Tis dry at the minute. I think if I'm heading show tomorrow, I think we got a wet morning, but dry in the afternoon. So we'll see how it goes, and then I'll let you know next week. So I hope you have a good week. Wish you well. Do Guinness. Carnobus Vican.